Let's check the latest news updates with APARNA VATS.
Namaskar. Welcome to Friends World TV English Bulletin. I'm your host APARNA VATS. Here are the headlines this week. Floods, landslides leave scores dead across Nepal in India. Darjeeling toy train's heritage tag under threat, UNESCO to send team. Arizona teacher gets 20 years for sexual abuse. Judge approves new Weinstein legal team led by Me Too critic. Honey producers hand-feed bees during drought to save hives with sting likely for consumers. Pensioners could see up to $804 a year more after funding boost. Halep wins Wimbledon, stops Williams' bid for 24th Slam. Djokovic wins longest point ever recorded at Wimbledon. Here are the details. Police in Nepal say flooding and landslides triggered by heavy rainfall have killed at least 43 people in the past few days, with more deaths reported across the Himalayan border in India. At least 24 others are missing in Nepal, either swept by swollen rivers or buried by mudslides since rains began pounding the region Friday. Roads and highways have been blocked in parts of Nepal while communication towers are knocked down. Rain-triggered floods and mudslides have left a trail of destruction in other parts of South Asia. Officials in northeastern India have reported at least a dozen people dead and over 1 million affected. The dead include 2 school children who were buried when their boarding school collapsed while they were asleep in Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh state. As per UNESCO's guidelines, reactive monitoring teams are sent in when a World Heritage Site is in danger and may require to be removed from the prestigious global list. India's continuing failure to conserve the 140-year-old Darjeeling Himalayan Railway (DHR), a World Heritage Site, has prompted UNESCO to take steps to assess the state of the railway system and see whether the property is worth the global heritage tag. Not satisfied with the information the Indian Railways has been furnishing about the state of conservation of the World Heritage Site, UNESCO will send its reactive monitoring mission comprising experts from UNESCO's World Heritage Committee and the International Council on Monuments and Sites to Darjeeling to ascertain the condition of the property jointly with the Indian Railways. It will identify priorities for action and report on these while also formulating a set of recommendations for the railways aimed at preventing further erosion of the property's outstanding universal value. According to draft minutes of UNESCO's annual meeting last week in Azerbaijan. In the meeting, the World Heritage Committee red-flagged erosion of attributes bearing the outstanding universal value as a result of management issues faced by the property over the 20 years since its inscription, and failure to implement the recommendations formulated by ICOMOS at the time of inscription. As per UNESCO guidelines, reactive monitoring teams are sent in when a World Heritage Site is in danger and may require to be removed from the prestigious global list. Arizona teacher gets 20 years for sexual abuse. The latest on the sentencing of a former elementary school teacher for sexually abusing student. A former elementary school teacher in a suburb of Phoenix will serve 20 years in prison for sexually abusing a 13-year-old student. A judge Friday opted not to give Brittany Ann Zamora the maximum sentence possible under a plea agreement arising from multiple sexual encounters with a boy in a classroom at Las Brisas Academy in Goodyear and in her car in 2018. They say some physical contact between Zamora, then 27, and the 6th grader occurred during class while other students watched a video. Zamora had faced more than 40 years in prison for her guilty pleas to sexual conduct with a minor, attempted child molestation and public sexual indecency. Her plea deal calls for her to be sentenced to at least 20 years on the sexual conduct conviction and doesn't make sentencing recommendations. Judge approves new Weinstein legal team led by Me Too critic. A judge gave Harvey Weinstein the green light Thursday to shake up his defense team yet again. This time, a mere 2 months before the disgraced movie mogul, whose case inspired the hashtag #MeToo movement, is due to stand trial in New York on sexual assault charges. One lawyer had already bolted amid public backlash. Now, Jose Baez, known for representing high-profile clients such as Casey Anthony, is out after saying he and Weinstein just can't get along. Donna Rotuno, a Me Too critic specializing in defending men accused of sexual misconduct, and Damon Cheronis are in. The judge, James Burke, approved the swap after questioning Weinstein to ensure it was what he wanted and getting the new lawyers to promise they won't seek to delay the trial from its scheduled September 9 start. Baez signaled last month that he wanted to leave the case, telling Burke in a letter that Weinstein had tarnished their relationship by communicating only through the lawyers and by failing to abide by a fee agreement. Weinstein engaged in behavior that made representing him unreasonably difficult to carry out effectively, he said, and insisted on taking actions with which I have fundamental disagreements, Baez wrote. Bounding out of the courtroom Thursday after getting sprung from the case, Baez said, "I feel like I won the lottery. Just kidding." Weinstein, 67, is charged with raping a woman in 2013 and performing a forcible sex act on a different woman in 2006. He denies the allegations, has pleaded not guilty, and is free on a $1 million bail. Baez and Sullivan started representing Weinstein in January when the former movie producer overhauled his legal team for the first time. That happened after his original lawyer, Benjamin Brafman, lost a hard-fought bid to get the case thrown out. Pamela Robillard McKay, who represented Kobe Bryant in his 2003 Colorado sexual assault case, and ex-Manhattan prosecutor Duncan Levin were also hired in January and have since left. Honey producers hand-feed bees during drought to save hives, with sting likely for consumers. Beekeepers in New South Wales have resorted to hand-feeding their hives as the drought cripples the bees' ability to make honey and survive the winter. Deb McLaughlin's operation at Bowral in the Southern Highlands is no longer focused on producing commercial amounts of honey, but simply keeping its bees alive. A mixture of castor sugar and water is sustaining the insects, helping them generate a small reserve of honey. But Miss Laughlin said the last harvestable season was 2 years ago and she had sold most of her remaining stock. We've been supplying cafes and restaurants in the area, and this season we haven't been able to do that, she said. Winter is a quiet time for a beehive. The colony shrinks and a small amount of honey is produced to keep the population going. But a shortage of eucalyptus flowers, which normally form the bees' main diet, has meant there is nowhere to gather nectar. Ms. McLaughlin said it was a situation playing out across Australia. In South Australia, their honey yields are down 70%, and it's most likely the case in Brisbane and throughout New South Wales. At nearby Bundanoon, beekeeper Dennis Garbutt said he had watched the situation deteriorate after the past 25 years as climate change caused warmer winters. The past couple of years, we haven't had any major honey flows, and the gum trees don't seem to be flowering as well as they should, he said. Honey is seasonal, and sometimes gum trees won't flower for 4 to 5 years. And I'm hoping that's what we are having now. But at the same time, this time of the year, we would have frost. It would be cold. Here we are having beautiful autumn days. Mr. Garbutt said while grey gums and ironbarks produced buds last summer, the heat and lack of rain killed any chance of them developing into nutritious flowers for the bees. The grip of the drought was forcing major producers to walk away from the game, he added. Pensioners could see up to $804 a year after funding boost. About 1 million Australians will receive a cash boost of up to $804 a year after the government announced long-anticipated changes to so-called deeming rates. The deeming rate will decrease from 1.75% to 1% for financial investments up to $52,000 for single pensioners and $86,000 for couples. The upper deeming rate will be cut to 3%. The changes mean single pensioners will see up to $804 extra a year in their pockets and couples $1,053. Seniors groups and Labour have been lobbying the government to cut the official deeming rate, which is used to calculate how much a pensioner earns on their financial assets, regardless of the actual return. That calculation is then used for the pension income assessment and therefore affects how much someone receives through their pension. Labour had argued the current rate was short-changing pensioners, saying deeming rates were meant to be set with regard to returns available in the market. On Sunday, the government bowed to that pressure, with Families and Social Services Minister Anne Ruston announcing the deeming rate on the first $51,800 of a single pensioner's financial investments and the first $86,200 of a couple's would drop from 1.57% to 1%. The changes will also benefit those receiving other income-tested payments, including the disability support pension and carer payment, as well as New Start allowance. Eligible Australians will see the extra money come into their bank accounts from the end of September in line with the regular indexation of the pension. The payments will be backdated to July 1. About 75% of aged pensioners will not be affected by the cut to the deeming rates. Halep wins Wimbledon, stops Williams' bid for 24th Slam. Clutching her trophy 20 minutes after becoming Wimbledon's champion, Simona Halep checked out the board inside centre court that lists tournament winners. Below all the mentions of Serena Williams, her opponent in Saturday's final, there already was inscribed Miss S. Halep. Halep was not concerned with preventing Williams from winning a 24th Grand Slam title. All Halep cared about was winning her first at the All England club, as she played pretty much perfectly. On top of her game right from start to finish, Halep overwhelmed Williams 6-2, 6-2 in stunning fashion for her second major championship. The whole thing took less than an hour as Williams lost her third slam final in a row as she tries to equal Margaret Court's record for the most major trophies in tennis history. "I am very sure," Halep said, "that was the best match of my life." The number 7 seeded Romanian made a mere 3 unforced errors, a remarkably low total and 23 fewer than Williams. The 37-year-old American hasn't won a tournament since the 2017 Australian Open, when she set the professional era record of 23 Grand Slam titles. Court won 13 of her titles against amateur competition. Williams was pregnant when she won in Australia and then took more than a year off the tour. Her daughter Olympia was born in September 2017. Since returning to tennis, Williams has dealt with injuries but still managed to remain among the game's elite. In part because of a bad left knee, she only had played 12 matches all season until Wimbledon. Djokovic wins longest point ever recorded at Wimbledon. Going by the number of strokes, it was the longest point ever recorded at Wimbledon. And for Novak Djokovic, it went a long way toward putting him into another final at the All England club. After exchanging dozens of strokes during the third set of his semi-final match against Robert Bautista Agut on Friday, Djokovic finally smacked a backhand down the line with the 45th shot of the rally to save a break point. The defending champion held serve to make it 5-2 and went on to win the match 6-2, 4-6, 6-3, 6-2. According to official statistics, the 45-stroke rally was the longest at Wimbledon since they started tracking point lengths in 2005. But for Djokovic, the important part was the impact it had on what was a very closely fought duel up until that stage. The previous Wimbledon record was 42 strokes, set in a 2006 match between Neminin and Dmitry Tursunov. The women's record is 39. Set in a 2007 match between Natalie Decky and Elena Dementieva. Rallies on grass are usually shorter than one on clay or hard courts. Seeking 9th Wimbledon title, Federer faces Djokovic in final. If Roger Federer is going to win a record 9th championship at Wimbledon, he will need to follow up a victory over Rafael Nadal with one over defending champion Novak Djokovic. Federer has played both at the same Grand Slam tournament only once. At the 2011 French Open, he beat Djokovic in the semi-finals but lost to Nadal in the final. As is the case with Nadal, Federer has faced Djokovic so many times over the years that each knows the other's game so well. And as is the case with Nadal, Djokovic has managed to get the better of Federer head-to-head so far. For Djokovic, this is his 6th Wimbledon final as he chases what would be his 5th trophy. Whoever comes out on top on Sunday, the 2019 Wimbledon title will be the 11th slam in a row won by Federer, Djokovic or Nadal and the 54th in the past 65. Namaskar.